than Nigeria. It has not been in the news as much until lately, and just is a country not as well known. So to give you an idea of the country itself, the first time I came, we flew into Douala, which is a coastal town. They say that Cameroon is Africa in miniature because it's got everything. It's got grasslands, it's got forests, it's got jungles, it's got seacoast, it's got gold, it's got oil. You'd think it would have money, but it doesn't. It's got a little bit of everything. And actually a lot of it looks like a Caribbean postcard. It's gorgeous. So this is a story that began when Sister Jane Monka, pictured here, with a dream in her heart, a vision in her head, and $25 in her pocket, boarded a plane for the United States. She had seen one child after another die on the streets of Cameroon. And she was in a convent at the time. She was a Presbyterian nun. I didn't know they had them, but they do. And she went to her superior and said, we have to help these children. Their parents had died of AIDS. This was in the late and mid 1990s. And they said, no, we're a contemplative order. We don't do that. So she said, well, then I'm leaving. So that's when she came to the United States and she studied convent management, learned how to establish her own convent. And she wrote to literally every convent in the United States, and only one responded to her, only one. And that was the community of St. John Baptist in Mendham, New Jersey. And of course, they're Episcopalian. So that's when I met Sister Jane. She had come to a church where Peggy used to be, and I was attending in Summit, New Jersey, and she gave a talk, and she was so infectious, and her smile and everything immediately captivated me. But I'd like to begin with a poem that I wrote to start the book that tells you something about Sister Jane. At the end of a steep, deeply rutted dirt road, slick with the rains of the season, lies the heart of Cameroon. Beating, beating, beating into the night, early in the morning, cuddling, feeding, loving the orphaned children of the Northwest Province. 300,000 strong, they cry out to be sheltered, fed, spirited away from the ravages of villagers who don't care. AIDS orphans, epileptic orphans, the work of witchcraft. Not in my house, not with my children. There's no room at the inn for you and you and you. The heart beats, the arms open wide as Sister Jane Monka welcomes each one as her own beloved child, miraculously an orphan no more. And this is one of the first little boys to come there, named Benedict, and you'll see him later on as he's grown up. But that's how it all got started. So I was working for the bishop in the Diocese of New Jersey and had a sabbatical, and decided that I really wanted to, when I met Sister Jane at the church in Summit, I decided to sponsor one of her children. And I thought, I think I'd like to go to Africa and see this child, see my child. I had never been to a developing nation. I knew nothing about it. And I just went with two other women in 2008. And after a very long plane ride and an overnight and a 10-hour car drive on roads with potholes literally as big as cows, and a van that quit working on us, and gendarmes every mile that would look in the van and see, what was going on. We finally arrived, and this is what we saw. These children dressed up in their finest dresses and their finest clothes that they had, singing and dancing for us and hugging us and grabbing us around the knees and welcoming us with open arms. And here's my little boy here. His name is Ambi. In the book, I call him Nafi and Dika because I don't use their real names. And he was elected, I guess, because I was there to read something to us, a declaration that they had all written, and I suspect the nuns had written, that it was just beautiful. And he was scared to death. He was scared he was going to say the wrong thing. As you can see, his big eyes were just looking at me, and I was just, well, it was joy unspeakable, as I say in the book. And while we were there in '08, this dormitory was not finished. It was just cinder block, not done. Electrical wiring, cables had been stolen, all sorts of things. But after I got back, we raised the money and finished building it. And this is the dormitory, which there are actually two separate buildings for 100 of the children in Bamenda. And then Sister Jane noticed that there were a lot of special needs children. There's a lot of epilepsy in Cameroon. And there's epilepsy, and also if a child had AIDS, they needed more care. Now that most of these children's parents had died of AIDS, but they didn't have AIDS. But the ones who did needed a lot more care than she could give them. So she started another home in Badibo, which was about a half hour away, for these special needs children. Now, it's absolutely amazing to me that the orphanage is almost completely self-sustaining. They have a chicken farm. She sells, usually before the war, which is going on now, which I'll talk about at the end, she was selling 8,000 chickens a year. And it's really a delicacy. The fathers of brides would come and buy her plump chickens because, as she said, they had American vitamins. She meant vitamins. And so they were plumper than anyone else's chickens. And she sold them for like $80,000. I mean, she made a lot of money, US dollars, selling these chickens. There's a bakery on site. And when they decide to bake bread, they can't just go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Williams Sonoma and get bread tins. They have to make their own. And they did. And here are their homemade bread tins. And they make 1,000 loaves of bread a day. And here are the loaves of bread. And they were in there working and wrapping them up and doing all these things. And of course, they sell them and also use them for the home. But when they fire up their oven, they literally fire it up with firewood. They have to chop the firewood and light it, and it's just quite a production. So one of the chapters in the book is called Pregnant Pigs. We woke up one morning really early to this sound of people scurrying around, and a couple of hours later, here comes this truck all filled with these pregnant pigs. And Sister Jane is running through the convent going, they're here, the pregnant pigs. And we found out that she only buys pregnant pigs and one male. And it's because obviously they're going to have a lot of piglets. And each one will have up to 9 pigs. And they provide great food for the children and also a big source of income. So it was a big, big day of great excitement when the pregnant pigs came. So each one of these children has a story. And when I was there, I audio recorded the children telling their story in their own words, the ones who could. The predominant language is English. Some of them speak Pidgin English, but a lot of them speak English. And so Sister Jane chose the ones who were able to share their stories with me. And I decided that their story is not mine to tell. It's difficult enough. I was very aware when I wrote this book that I am a white American writing about an African nation and African children. And I was very, very sensitive to that. And so part of that sensitivity was to let the children tell their stories in their own words. I was reminded of that psalm. How do you sing a song in a strange land? And sometimes you don't. You let those people who are there sing the song. So I'd like to read you their story in their own words. I have a number of them in the book. I just would like to read you parts of 2 stories, and that's just me with the book. But this is in the book. I call him Mobia Dabango. And again, that is not his name, but I have his permission to share his story and show you his picture at the same time. This was taken on my second trip in 2012. So he's older, about 4 years older than the first time I met him. And so listen to Mobia. I am from a polygamous family, he began. I like polygamous, and I realized he meant polygamous. I'm from a polygamous family, he began, eager to tell me his story. My mother was the second wife to my father. Since my father died when I was an infant, my mother took all of her children to Douala to live, where she thought we would be all right. But life there was not all right, and it was not easy for her to take care of us. You see, there are 15 children in my family, 8 from my father's first wife and 7 from my father's second wife. We're all of the womb tribe. When my father died, the first wife took all of her children to live with her mother, and my mother took all of us to live in Douala. While we were there, I used to sleep outside on the ground, on the streets. Our mother could not take care of us all. She was unable to feed us. Very difficult for her. That's why she took us to stay with her mother. She thought her mother would be able to help us. Because my mother could not feed us, my uncle came and took 3 of us to his village to live and work for him. Me, my brother Emmanuel, and Mary, my sister. My mother thought we would be fine, but things were not going fine. Life there was so horrible. He made us do back-breaking labor all day to support him and his family without enough food to eat. Many days I was so hungry I thought I was going to pass out, but I still had to keep working. He goes on to say that his mother got sick and he didn't know of what. And he says, my mother died in my hands at night, at 2 o'clock in the night. I was holding her. My grandmother sent us to the next village to tell my mother's family she had died. We had to go that night to tell them. There was no place to keep the corpse cold, so we had to leave right then. We left at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were trekking for 2 hours to get there, and at first we were in total darkness. I fell several times and my leg was bleeding from hitting a rock. We had to pass through rushing water through a river. I was very afraid. It was full and moving so fast. Several times I went under. I thought I might not make it. To keep our clothes dry, we had to remove them. We had to wrap them up, and we held them above our heads. We finally got to the next village to see our aunt, and nobody was there. We had to wait. She finally came. Then we left to come back to my grandmother's, and by that time the river had died down. The water was not a problem, and my mother was buried the next day. He told me this, and we're just sitting outside, and I'm kind of sitting on a little sidewalk, and what do you say? You know, when a child that age, when it happened to him, he was very young, and his mother died in his arms, and then he had to do that. You know, there are no words. There are no words for it. Mobia is a doctor today. It is the most amazing story, but with the support of people in the United States and one of my friends here who's a medical doctor, he's been able to go to medical school, and he's almost graduated, not quite, but he wears a white coat and he does all of that. And this is a young girl. I won't read you her story, but in her case, and this happens to many of the girls in particular, she was taken in by extended relatives. And they were, all the other children in that family were allowed to go to school. She was not. That's a common story. What I found over and over in these children was this uh, reverence and awe and desire for education, unlike anything you ever see in the, or I had ever seen in the United States, because so many of them had been denied an education. And in her case, and in many of their cases, they're the ones that the family said, okay, I'll take in this child whose parents have died, but the reason was so the child could work night and day. And in this young woman's case, she was not given food, enough food to eat. They would tell her to go outside, there's no more food. And one time she came in a little earlier and found that they were all eating more food. And she just sobbed and she left. And these children were all brought to the Good Shepherd home by, in each case, most of the cases, a very loving uncle who saw that they needed to be there. Some of them have parents who are alive but are not mentally capable. They do have extended families, but they're not able to take care of them or feed them. And so this is what happens to them. And you know, life in the home every day. They get up at 5:30. They're doing their chores. This is a little girl, cleanest pot I've ever seen, cleaning out a pot. But they also play. Here they are playing jump rope. They play basketball. They play soccer. They do all of those things too. So by the time this first visit came to an end, it was like, you know, I knew we were going to finish the dormitory. And my American perspective is I want to thank God. I want to go home and just declare victory and go home. Like, this is great. Sister Jane, you've done it. Wow, look what you've done. And she goes, not so fast, not so fast. She said, no, Canon, I got another plan for you. And I said, look, I'm getting ready to retire. I don't need another plan. And if you've ever argued with a nun, you know it doesn't go too well. You know who's going to win. And that's what happened in this case. So what she told me was that secondary high school is not mandatory. And I think Elaine said the same thing about Cameroon. Only 6% of the youth in Cameroon ever graduate from high school because I mean, primary school's mandatory. They get out, they've got a fifth grade education and they can't do anything. And because high school's not mandatory, there are very few government high schools. They just don't have them. So they depend on mission schools. So the reality is they were walking 10 miles or more to and from school. They could be kidnapped or raped along the way. And my little boy that you saw was kidnapped on his way to school. By the grace of God, he got out, but they're kidnapped for human trafficking purposes. They get soaked to the bone during the rainy season, crowded to a classroom with 100 other children, stand all day due to a lack of desks, and they're hungry because there's no lunch. So that was their reality that she shared with me. And she said, this is their dream. They need to live in a residential co-ed secondary school. Why do they need to live there? Because there's no transportation. They have to walk miles to get to school and get home. And as I said, the human trafficking is a real issue. So a lot of the girls, when you look at why girls don't go to secondary high school in these developing nations, it's because they'll get raped on the way to school. And, you know, these are things we don't think about, but that's part of the reason they're not there. So one of their needs was to live in a residential school in a safe, loving, secure environment, to learn traditional academic subjects, as well as sustainable organic agriculture. That's a big focus of our school as well. And knowing they have a bright future. So on my second trip, I went with a different person, Brenda Ruello, pictured here. And we met with the prime minister of the country, Prime Minister Philemon Yang. And of course, took a little PR shot with my book at that point. It was out. And we were sharing with him our ideas of building a school, and told him we had just gotten back on our way home to the United States. We had been staying at the Good Shepherd Home for Children. And he said, now, as I look at you two women, you don't appear to be women who've gone hungry in your lives. And we said, no. And he said, and you came over here and lived in this orphanage with these children whose parents died of AIDS? We said, yeah. And he said, are you crazy? He said, our people won't do that, you know. And he really didn't know what to think. And we said, no, we're not crazy. We're going to do this. Interestingly, and that's, if I ever write a book about this, I will, but I found out later that my entire visit, and I should have known better, I guess, was videoed without my knowledge. And they played part of my interview with him on TV. Fortunately, I did know enough not to say anything I shouldn't say, but it was on TV, Canon, Elizabeth Geitz, and they had taken the clip out of it that they wanted to make some sort of political point. I didn't feel too good about that, but that's the reality of working in these countries. It's one of the realities. So what do you do if you decide, you know, if someone from a developing nation says, I want you to do this with me? Well, how do you do it? I didn't know how to build a school. I had no idea. So what we did was we established a cross-cultural partnership, very grassroots, very grassroots. The idea came from Sister Jane and her board. We put together a nonprofit in Cameroon because we had to have a nonprofit on the ground. We couldn't run this through a religious institution. And then we started a nonprofit here in the United States called Good Shepherd Sustainable Learning Foundation. And this is our team now. This is Brenda and me, the two co-founders. And we've got two Cameroonians on our board. Dr. Zama was an orphan in Cameroon. He's got his PhD from Harvard and his medical degree from University of Cincinnati. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Joseph Fonlin has his MBA and his JD, and just they're the most brilliant men. I mean, they grew up in Cameroon, and then there's the rest of us kind of bringing up the rear on this board. But so we work in partnership with them, and it's very, very carefully put together so that we are not what is called in some countries the ugly Americans that come in and try and tell people how to do things. We have a paradigm that is very different than that. So this is Sister Jane speaking at the Diocese of New Jersey Convention. And as I said, she's the founder of Good Shepherd Home for Children and the Good Shepherd Academy Association, which is the nonprofit that we established in Cameroon. And so Good Shepherd Academy is a cross-cultural project of these two nonprofits, Good Shepherd SLF USA and Good Shepherd AA Cameroon, incorporated in 2013. And we have our Guide Star Platinum Seal of Transparency, which the highest seal we can get, and makes me feel quite good. It's a lot of work to get that. So what we set up is not a benefactor paradigm. It is incarnational participation in the lives of those with whom we are in partnership. And there's a big difference between those two. Incarnational participation in the lives of those with whom we are in partnership. And it's missional outreach. What our nonprofit does is we are discerning what God is already doing in Cameroon, learning how to be in ministry with that team, and inviting the Spirit to create new forms of Christian community for us together. And in that, we are together imagining tomorrow. We are imagining how together we can take our different skills, different gifts, different knowledge levels, different experiences, and build a school, build a future for these children. And Imagining Tomorrow is our brand of our nonprofit here. And this is our, house, our school we're building with reaching for the star. That's the idea of that. Our goal is to break the cycle of poverty in Cameroon, provide access to sustainable education, and provide a secure, loving, residential Christian setting. Now, as we did in the school, We accept children from all faith traditions or no faith tradition, that doesn't matter. But we do teach Christianity. We also teach world religions. We teach tolerance. We teach civics, how to be a good citizen. They don't understand democracy because they haven't really lived in one. So there's a lot of things. So our mission is to support their intellectual, spiritual, and physical growth, to enable them to support themselves and their families, and to foster their engagement as active citizens. These are our uniforms, very proud of. And we accomplish this by supporting the construction of Good Shepherd Academy. We integrate not only the academics, but very importantly, sustainable farming, creative thinking, entrepreneurship, and leadership skills, because these are all things that we think are going to help them build their country, and that will set our school apart from the other schools that are there, the other mission schools. And for some of them, they're not going to all be able to get into university. You know, originally the goal of organizations like ours was to come in and get everybody a university education. Well, now you've got people, a lot of people in countries like Cameroon with a university degree, and they're riding a motorcycle as a taxi because there's no jobs for them. So we've also got a component where we are enabling them, because not all of them are going to be capable either, to get a vocation. So we have the sustainable agriculture as well as accounting and other things like that, so that they can do that when they get out. Because the population is 51% girls, we have more girls than boys. And it's a huge difference between what, if a girl has a high school education versus if she doesn't. These are all the ways that this girl will benefit. And our vision, our mutual vision of both, is transformational education changes adolescent lives in Cameroon forever. And that's our plan. And we do this through 4 different kinds of stewardship. Stewardship of the soul, because education yields a larger impact than any other form of aid that we can give, to do all of these things, all these 4 things. Education stands out in every study after study after study as the one thing that can make a difference. We have a stewardship of creation because we have the sustainable agricultural program. Why? Because agriculture employs 70% of Cameroon's workforce. This is what they do. This is what they know how to do. So let's teach them how to do it better. And we are working in getting ready to form a partnership with Greenhouse Ventures that will teach them how to do this in greenhouses. So this is a huge, huge deal. Stewardship of body, mind, and spirit. The core values of the school. These are our core values. And I think I've talked about all of them, except maybe 21st century skills are primarily critical thinking. We think that's so important to teach them how to think. The other Cameroonian schools, and this is what these Cameroonians on our board, we've got the 2 that I identified, and we've got 2 PhDs in Cameroon on their board, who say the problem with the Cameroonian educational system is that they mainly teach them to the test, so they can pass what they call their general something exams, GCEs. And it's just they teach to the test. They don't teach them how to think. They don't teach critical thinking. And so critical thinking and leadership and entrepreneurship, so that they can go out and maybe hopefully do things and use their education. That is our plan that sets us apart from other schools. And Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. And I think that's true. So what did we do? We had all these ideas, right? We came up with these visions. We came up with goals. We came up with missions. And the first thing that happened is that Sister Jane, I said it was the board, but it wasn't. It was actually Sister Jane, through the money she earned at the orphanage, bought, and this was her contribution, 15 acres of prime land. And she has since added to that. And she spent her money on that. She wanted to contribute to this rather than us just giving them everything. And this is our plan. Here's the school. Peggy said, stop on that so you can tell people about it. It's quite involved. It's really more like what you and I would think of as a college campus. But this is what the mission schools are like over there. They are gated. I mean, they're walled in. We've got walls on the first part and then fencing, barbed wire fencing along the back for security purposes. We've got the dormitories. We've got one girls' dorm right now. The dark blue are the buildings that are completed. The dark blue dorms. This is the boys. This is the girls. They've got a lounge. And so we've got room now for 88 students. And if we put some students in the lounges, we got room for 100 right now. We've got this academic wing completed. This is the administration building completed. When I visited there, we had the principals and secretaries were all stuck in the classrooms and taking up space. This is the Calvary Center, built by Calvary Church in Summit, New Jersey. It is everything. It is the rectory where they eat all their meals. It's their worship space. It's their assembly space. We've got a stage at one end. It's their performing arts center. An Eagle Scout in my town here in Pennsylvania collected 33 band instruments, and they're going to have the only band in the Northwest province. It's just not something they have. This is a native kitchen that someone just said somebody's uncle died or grandfather. It's called Ben Jesser's Kitchen after this grandfather. This is our guardhouse. So it's amazing. I mean, I don't know what to say. The fact that this is there stupefies me. As I said, I've never done anything like this. And by the grace of God, this is a school that God built. Seriously. And when it's finished, it will have all of these things. Who knows if it'll ever get finished? I'm sure it'll get finished. If we got far, we'll get it finished. But when it's finished, this is what we have the plans to have. We've got one beautiful state-of-the-art computer lab now, which I'll show you. 3 years after founding our cross-cultural partnership, we opened Good Shepherd Academy. And this is our class of pioneer students. So proud of them. Small. We started small. I mean, people didn't know we were there. We, just didn't know we were there. So we started out small. We had an amazing opening ceremony. I went back in 2016. This is the fawn of Bafut. He's like the king of the village. And people, the locals were shocked that he stayed the whole time. About 200 villagers wandered up the hill to see us and to participate, and they had it all set up. We're under awnings. These are the tribal elders from the Bafut tribe, and you can see they've got a certain kind of embroidery on their velvet, and it was hot. Oh my gosh, it was so hot. So what they did, one of my biggest honors, I'm going to make sure it's in my obituary, is that I'm a princess of the palace of Bafut. So they robed us in these amazing robes. And this is one of our architects. They gave her this one. And it was just, I can't even explain what the whole situation was like. And hysterically enough, if you notice, this is Christina Kales. She came with me on this trip, and she was able to get a letter from President Obama that she read out loud that hangs proudly in the school, and Sister Jane read it to the faculty when they opened the school this year in October. So if you notice, her headpiece is different than mine. So she asked some of the women, why is my headdress different than Elizabeth's? I don't have all that. And they said, oh, well, you're you are not of childbearing years. And I said, what, I am? I'm 67 years old. So they thought I was old enough to still have children. So I had a different headdress, which I don't, pretty comical to me anyway. The students, one of the first things they did was they went and bought these choir robes and they sang and danced. And then we all walked down and had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the gate. The fawn is right here. I'm here. This is the governor's representative. You can see they had TV cameras. I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever experienced. And these are the buildings we have right now. This is the classrooms, the boys' dorm, girls' dorm, and the Cavalry Center. And there's some more buildings over here, but that's basically it. And this is our science lab that I'm so proud of, built by Lorraine and Gordon DiPaolo. And I just wrote a grant to get some lab equipment. You got to have lab equipment for a science center like that. So we have white smart boards for them to be able to put things up on. This is Benedict. Remember that little boy I said you'll see him later? Here's Benedict. And he's just an amazing kid. And here they are. That's my favorite picture of all. All of the children have shaved heads. Now these happen to be boys, but the girls also have shaved heads to prevent lice in the home as well as at the school. So we had this amazing experience, this amazing day. We walked out, we were on our way over to see Sister Jane, and there was a peaceful protest going on by Anglophone lawyers and teachers. And you can see they are saying Anglophone should stand up to save the Anglo-Saxon English system of education from complete eradication. And these are the lawyers, and they are very English. You can see their dress and their wigs. And here's another picture of them. And they're saying, even at this early stage, only a two-state federation or outright independence can save the common law and the Anglophone people. Cameroon has 10 provinces. 8 are French speaking, only 2 are English speaking. So they're very, very much in the minority. And like any other country, when you've got a minority, they are taken advantage of. And in this situation, it was also a language issue. And the French, the Francophone, they feel, plan was to pull them into their culture, and so they would no longer have the Anglophone culture. So for instance, they were sending only French-speaking judges to hear cases in the Anglophone regions, so they couldn't understand what the lawyers were saying. They would send French-speaking teachers to teach in the schools and try to teach them a French system for doing things. That's how it started. Could have been solved easily. Then the Anglophones held a peaceful march with palm branches, but it was not responded to in a peaceful way by the Francophone government. And in newspapers around the world, they reported that the people were fired on from helicopters and some people were killed. It has resulted in an outright war. These are what they call themselves the Ambazonians. These are the English-speaking people who are now fighting for their independence. And here they are, they've got masks on. This is not due to COVID, so you can't tell who they are. So all the schools closed. Right after we built this school, right after we'd done all of this, we had to close. And there were some fits and starts of openings and closings, but they would kidnap students, kidnap teachers, and we had to put the safety of our students before anything else. And so that's what we closed. During this time, I was in very close communication with Ambassador Peter Barlerin, U.S. Ambassador to Cameroon. He has just stepped down, and we don't have a new one yet. But here he is speaking to one of our students who got to see him. But he was a real support and a supporter and cheerleader for our school and for everything that we're doing in that country. While the school was closed, we decided we weren't going to let any grass grow under our feet. So we held the Good Shepherd Academy camp. And here the musical instruments our Boy Scouts sent. Here they are playing soccer. And we held an overnight camp there for 78 students for 1 month. And then we decided to open Good Shepherd Preparatory School back at the orphanage. This is the same dormitory you saw at the beginning because it was safer in Bamenda than it was in Bafut. So we kept going, we kept doing things, we kept meeting regularly. And also by the grace of God, our donors have stayed with us. So let me give you an idea here. The English speaking part, I'm going to take this just right here. That's it. Now, when you look at the map, it's like, why isn't this part of Nigeria? And they had a choice. They could have become part of Nigeria or become in a federation with Cameroon. And they became what was supposed to be a federation, but did not end up being one. And that's the problem now. But in October of 2020, we opened again. We've been able to reopen. These are our students. This is a picture from the opening ceremony. Again, they're singing the national anthem, but we are reopened as of October with great joy. And these students who've now been out of school for almost 4 years, and they're in the middle of this country that the conflict is still going on. I think of this as like running a school in Israel. There is ongoing conflict, but you keep going in the middle of it, in the midst of it, and that's what we're doing. So, I've developed a Cameroon heart. That's what I would say. And I got a little brief video, but I don't think we're going to have time for that unless you want to. And this is it. Build a school, build a future. Our website is imaginingtomorrow.org. And I am blessed with the best board you can imagine. We now meet regularly by Zoom with the Cameroon board. So that is a boon to us to be able to do that. And, the partnership is based on mutuality and faith and transparency, and it's life-giving to all of us. I've learned a lot more than I've given. Learned a lot of things I never thought I would have to learn. But it's, when you enter into a cross-cultural partnership, you stay with it. It's not something you're going to start and stop. So whether there's a war going on and you're waking up to horrible, horrible news or whatever it is, you stay in it with the people who are there. And that's what we've done. And we've been with them every day. We've been a support for them. We've been a beacon of light on a hill. And mainly what we've been for them is they have known through this incredible hardship, first of poverty and then of the war, that there are people in America who love them and care about them enough to do this for them. And that has given them something priceless that money can't buy, and that is way beyond the bricks and the mortar and the cement and the paint of the school. So that's it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. How long is the video?
You're welcome. It's just about maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 at the most. Y'all want to see it?
Raise your hand if you'd like to see the video.
It's Sister Jane and the children in their own words.
It's just a couple minutes. I think we should see it. It's just a few minutes, and then we'll have questions.
I am the founder of the Good Shepherd Home and the Benedictine Sisters of Bethany. This land is where the Good Shepherd Academy will be constructed. Children who are going to study in this boarding school, they are going to spend good 7 years in a safe environment. The children are going to study not only mathematics, physics, chemistry, but they are going to study how to cultivate their own vegetable, because all the vegetables that we'll be consuming in this school will come from our own gardens. We are going to have a fish pond. We are going to have a chicken farm. The droppings will go to fertilize our vegetable farm. Please make it happen. Let us make it happen, even in the very smallest way. Let us give a smile to Cameroonian children who will study in this environment. We will always remember you and what you have done. Thank you. God bless.
I would like to be a teacher in future so that I can help my junior ones and teach them.
I want to be an engineer.
I would like to be a singer.
I want to be a great footballer.
I would like to be an electrician.
I want to be a doctor. I want to be a footballer. I like to take care of my brothers and sisters. I like to be a farmer. I want to be a children's doctor. That's I like to care for children.
I want to help others. That is why I want to be a medical doctor.
That's it.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
that goes back to the very beginning. That was a video from the home that shows her vision at the very beginning of what she wanted to do. And so I thought it'd be good to kind of end and circle back to the beginning back to the orphanage.
Beautiful. What a wonderful program. Thank you so much, Elizabeth Geitz.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I love being here. I love doing it.
If everybody would like to unmute themselves or unmute when they speak, I know Elizabeth would love to talk about it some more with you. If you can linger a little bit and share your questions with her. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Make sure you unmute yourself. Jane.
Okay, Elizabeth, could you tell us again when you first went to Cameroon?
2008.
8, okay.
13 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Wow, you've gotten a lot built in that short a time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It just boggles the mind, doesn't it, to see all that has been accomplished. It's just, and Sister Jane Manka is a force. If you
she's a
hear
force.
Elizabeth talk about her.
Yeah.
When you think how you can do so much with so little, I think that's what really amazes me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can buy so much over there. Your money goes very, very far, and you know, yes, makes a big difference.
I mean, I didn't mean so little money, but just, you know, starting out with so little, and to be able to have a vision like that. You know, when you said by the grace of God, it truly is.
Yeah, thank you. It was their vision. And I was ready to retire, and it was nothing that I ever thought up, you know, but I think that's how it has to be. I think we have to go along with where they are. We have to look and see what is God doing in that country, and how can I join in or not?
Yeah, Elizabeth, I just want to say, it's Martha Gardner, that I just love the whole, your philosophy about kind of incarnational, and as you said, partnership, and, you know, the fact that the two organizations came together. It's not the usual pattern. It's usually like, you know, we're going over to do for others. And I just really like that, as you said, partnership, collaboration, listening to where they are, where we are, and then walking together. I wish more mission opportunities, programs were following the same philosophy, because it takes a little bit longer, perhaps. It puts you out, but I think it's the only way to go. So thank you.
Well, I will tell you, it takes about at least twice as long. I mean,
Sure.
because there are, as you might imagine, there are a lot of cultural differences. There are a lot of misunderstandings.
Mhm.
Sister Jane and I have had some knockdown dragouts, and then we've worked it out, you
Mhm.
know, and because I will not make a decision and say, no, you're going to do this because we've got the money. I mean, you know, that's what happens a lot of times. That when you're the one, when you know, and I'm very aware that we're the ones holding all the money.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so we just don't do that.
Mhm.
And we've got tremendous respect between the two boards as
Mhm.
we work through these things. For instance, the board over there, the first thing they did when they met against Sister Jane's over her dead body, literally, was to vote themselves in a board fee. And we tried to explain to them that you don't get paid for doing this. But they don't do it over there like that. They don't have a sense of volunteerism. It's not something they understand. So I mean, that went on for a long time. We don't pay them. We're not going to pay them. But they don't understand. And so it's, you know, little things like that you learn, you all learn, and you listen. And I talk a lot about St. Benedict's line of listening with the ear of the heart, because that's what you have to do in these situations. Yeah.
It's just incredible. We have with us Elaine Chagnon tonight, who started a school in Nigeria, and she lives here in remind us what town, Elaine? And I know you can relate so much to what Elizabeth has told us tonight. We were lucky enough to hear Elaine's presentation 2 weeks ago. So thank you for joining us, Elaine, tonight.
I'm always excited when someone's passion for Africa, and there's so many parallels between the two countries in terms of development. And yeah, I'm in Granby. I'm way almost in Massachusetts. So but we work in northern Nigeria, in the far north, and then in the middle belt. So
Wow.
well,
Are you all near where the Chinook girls were kidnapped?
no, that's the far northeast. We work in the northwest.
Okay. Okay.
Up
Good.
in
Good.
Zamfara State, and then we're in Kaduna
Yeah.
State, which is kind of a hotbed, you know, similar to your Civil War. It's pretty much a hotbed there too. It's sad.
I mean, hearing about the Civil War and figuring out what to do with the orphanage and then the school, you know, I think tonight for the first time I realized they were in two different places, in Bafut and Bamenda.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I registered
Yeah.
that before. I thought that was all in Bamenda, or I was conflating the two. So that was.
Yeah. A lot of people do that, and no, they're about 30 minutes apart.
30 minutes drive?
Yeah.
Oh. Wow. So tell them about Sister Jane right now, Elizabeth.
About what you mean, her health issue?
Yeah, if you
Well,
want.
she ended up in the hospital recently with malaria, and I just
Oh.
ask you all to pray for her. I don't know why she doesn't always end up in the hospital, and she's never been sick a day in her life. And I was talking to her, and she says, you know, Canon, I need a rest. I need a rest. And I thought she was saying I need a raise. And I go, yeah, you do need a raise. You never got a raise at all. She goes, no. Then I realized she's never had a vacation in 40 years.
Oh,
I mean, and
She
taking
loved
care
her
of
life.
150 children and living in the middle of a war and building a school and all the things that she navigates in that society as a woman are pretty incredible. I mean, women are not in positions of authority in her country. And she's very, very tough. She has to be tough. So I would ask you all to please pray for her health. And we're hoping she's, you know, gonna pull out
what
of
is
this.
she having? Malaria. Oh,
Malaria.
Yeah, but when you think that she came to this country with 25 bucks in her pocket, all she had was her dream for these children, and then her perseverance and her persistence to writing to all those convents of all different denominations. And then finally, an Episcopal convent in Mendham, New Jersey says, sure.
Yeah.
Only
And
one.
she studied convent management for 2 years at St. Elizabeth's. She's got an associate's degree from a college over here.
Oh, that's cool.
In convent management. And then she went
Wow.
back, and when she was here, she raised the funds to start the convent. And then she got the convent, and then she started the kids coming. And then it's just, I've never seen anything.
Wonderful.
When there was a picture of another nun in the blue habit, what was she also from Mendham, the order, the same order of St.
She's
John
not
Baptist?
over there. Well, no, she's, the first thing she founded was the Sisters of Bethany. She's founded
Oh.
3 things. She founded the Sisters of Bethany, and they're an Anglican order of nuns. And then the Sisters of Bethany take care of the orphans.
I see.
And then she founded the orphanage. And then
Wow.
she wrote me in and said, okay, we're going to found a school. I said, no, we're not. She said, yes, we are. And so to give y'all an idea of the interesting ways that God works, I was having a book signing party with her here in the United States. And, we were here and we were having a dinner, and this one woman, and she'd had maybe 1 glass of wine too many. And because Sister Jane had talked to me about this school, and I said, look, there's no way I can do this. I don't know how, I have no idea. So this woman who had 1 glass of wine too many is sitting next to Sister Jane, and she stands up and says, and points to Brenda's husband. You saw Brenda, and says, Sam and I have made a commitment. She's a bit of a character. And she said, we're going to get 100 people to give $1,000. So we're going to raise $100,000, and we're going to build Sister Jane's school.
Wow.
Build what? Build
Well,
Sister Jane's school.
And, it cost way more than that. And this woman never raised a penny and left me holding the bag. And that's how I ended up starting this whole thing.
Wow.
So you just never know. God works in truly mysterious ways. Truly.
Well, we are so blessed to have this opportunity tonight to hear about this school.
Thank you. I hope you all will go on our website, take a look at it. There are more videos on the website. We've got, if you want a little gift for somebody, we have a gift catalog and all sorts of things. It's very simple. If you wanted to buy, sewing supplies or soccer equipment for $25 or a computer for $200, doesn't matter, but there's something. And if you have any inclination to do something like that, just, I always give my grandchildren Christmas gifts with these on it. So there's always something.
So it's imaginingtomorrow.org.
ORG. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. I bet some of the others might have some questions before we go. Does anybody else want to chime in? Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your beautiful presentation tonight. It's such a joy to see you and to share this beautiful opportunity with so many of us. I'm thrilled at the turnout. There's 13 of us. I know one, Miss Royce had to leave early, she told us. But thank you all for taking the time on your Thursday evening to learn more about this wonderful, wonderful ministry in Cameroon through imaginingtomorrow.org. So
we thank you so very, very much. We're grateful to Peggy for bringing you here, and Elaine, to you for returning as well. We're so grateful.
Good to see you again, Sheila. I saw you on the last one. Thank you all. It's been wonderful to be here and to meet you.
And you. God bless.
all right. Blessings to everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.